Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're diving headfirst into a pool of corporate chaos, a cesspool of CEO shenanigans so egregious, so brazen, they'd make your average used car salesman blush. That's right, folks, we're talking about the top 10 CEO scandals that changed everything. These aren't your run-of-the-mill accounting errors or slightly misleading marketing campaigns. Oh no, these are the stories that shook the corporate world to its core, leaving a trail of shattered trust, government investigations, and enough shattered glass ceilings, mostly from CEOs falling through them, to make a recycling plant weep. So buckle up, grab your cynicism detectors, because you're going to need them. And get ready for a wild ride through the underbelly of corporate greed and executive malpractice. Enron, a name synonymous with corporate greed and accounting gymnastics that would make even Simone Biles's head spin. This energy giant, once hailed as a Wall Street darling, turned out to be a house of cards built on a foundation of lies, deceit, and enough creative accounting to make even the most morally flexible accountant break a sweat. At the heart of this debacle was a group of executives more interested in inflating their stock prices and lining their pockets than in running an actual ethical and profitable business. They cooked the books, hid billions of dollars in debt off balance sheet, and basically treated accounting rules like those annoying suggestions you get on your phone. Completely optional, but here's the kicker. They got away with it for years. They had everyone fooled, from investors to analysts to, well, almost everyone. That is until the whole charade came crashing down faster than a poorly constructed Jenga tower, leaving investors penniless and sending shockwaves through the financial world. The Enron scandal wasn't just about a few bad apples, though. It exposed a systemic rot in corporate culture. A willingness to prioritize profits above all else, even if it meant bending or breaking the rules. And it led to some much-needed soul-searching and a whole lot of new regulations in the corporate world. Bernie Madoff. The name alone conjures up images of yachts, mansions, and a lifestyle so lavish it would make even the Kardashians blush. But behind the facade of wealth and success lurked a secret so audacious, so brazen, it would make even the most hardened criminal wince, a Ponzi scheme of epic proportions. For decades, Madoff ran what appeared to be a highly successful investment firm, promising consistent, above-average returns. Investors, blinded by greed and Madoff's air of respectability, poured billions into his fund, fueling his lavish lifestyle and perpetuating the illusion of success. But there was a tiny problem. It was all a lie. Madoff wasn't investing the money at all. Instead, he was running a classic Ponzi scheme, using money from new investors to pay off older ones, all while pocketing a tidy sum for himself, of course. The house of cards finally crumbled in 2008 when, amidst the global financial crisis, investors started asking for their money back. Madoff, unable to keep the charade going any longer, confessed his crimes to his sons, who promptly turned him in. The fallout was catastrophic. Thousands of investors, from retirees to charities to celebrities, lost their life savings. The total cost of Madoff's fraud, a staggering $65 billion. Remember when Volkswagen was synonymous with reliable, eco-friendly cars? Yeah, good times. Then came Dieselgate, a scandal so egregious, so brazen, it would make even the most ardent environmentalist consider investing in a Hummer. Here's the gist. Volkswagen, in a bid to dominate the diesel car market, decided to take a shortcut. Instead of actually engineering their cars to meet emissions standards, they installed software designed to cheat emissions tests. These defeat devices, as they were not so affectionately dubbed, could detect when a car was being tested and activate emissions controls, making the cars appear cleaner than a choir boy's conscience. But out on the open road, it was a different story. The cars were spewing out up to 40 times the legal limit of nitrogen oxides, a harmful pollutant. The deception worked for a while. Volkswagen sold millions of these clean diesel cars worldwide, raking in profits and patting themselves on the back for their environmental consciousness. But the jig was up in 2015 when independent researchers uncovered the truth. The fallout was swift and brutal. Volkswagen faced billions of dollars in fines, recalls, and lawsuits. Their reputation lay in tatters. Their stock price plummeted faster than a meteor, and the once trusted brand became synonymous with corporate deceit. Chapter 4, Theranos, Blood, Lies, and a Silicon Valley Unicorn. Silicon Valley, the land of unicorns, disruptors, and, well, occasionally massive fraud. Enter Theranos, a blood-testing startup that promised to revolutionize healthcare with a revolutionary device that could diagnose hundreds of diseases with just a single drop of blood. At the helm was Elizabeth Holmes, a charismatic Stanford dropout with a Steve Jobs-esque aura and a penchant for black turtlenecks. She became a media darling, gracing magazine covers and attracting billions of dollars in investment from some of the biggest names in tech and beyond. But there was just one tiny little problem. The technology didn't work, like at all. The revolutionary device was about as accurate as a magic 8-ball, and the company was riddled with problems, from questionable science to a culture of secrecy and intimidation. The house of cards began to crumble in 2015 when a series of investigative reports by the Wall Street Journal exposed Theranos' fraudulent practices. The company soon collapsed, leaving investors billions of dollars out of pocket and patients questioning the validity of their test results. Chapter 5, Wells Fargo creating accounts and a whole lot of problems. Remember when your biggest concern with your bank was accidentally overdrafting your account? Those were simpler times. Enter Wells Fargo, a bank that took corporate greed to a whole new level by, well, creating millions of fake accounts without their customers' knowledge or consent. You see, Wells Fargo had this brilliant idea to boost their sales figures and impress investors. Their solution? Set unrealistic sales targets for their employees and then pressure them to meet those targets by any means necessary. The result? A toxic work environment where employees, fearing for their jobs, resorted to creating millions of unauthorized accounts in their customers' names, from checking and savings accounts to credit cards and lines of credit. This went on for years, with millions of customers unwittingly racking up fees and charges on accounts they didn't even know they had. The scam finally came to light in 2016, and the fallout was swift and brutal. Wells Fargo was slapped with billions of dollars in fines, lawsuits, and penalties. Their reputation was in tatters, and their CEO was forced to resign in disgrace. Chapter 6, Uber, buckle up for a bumpy ride and a series of scandals. Uber, the ride-sharing giant that promised to revolutionize transportation, disrupt the taxi industry, and, well, maybe not be terrible to their drivers or riders in the process. For a while there, Uber was the epitome of the move fast and break things Silicon Valley ethos. But behind the sleek app and the promise of convenient, affordable rides lurked a darker side, a corporate culture rife with sexism, allegations of sexual harassment, and a general disregard for, well, pretty much everything resembling ethical behavior. At the center of this maelstrom was Travis Kalanick, Uber's co-founder and CEO. A man whose leadership style could best be described as aggressive, combative, and bordering on tyrannical. Under his watch, Uber became embroiled in one scandal after another. There was the time they allegedly stole trade secrets from their rivals, the allegations of price gouging during emergencies, the tracking of journalists and politicians, and the infamous Greyball software, which allowed Uber to evade authorities in cities where their service was banned. The straw that broke the camel's back, however, was a series of sexual harassment allegations and a toxic workplace culture that seemed to permeate every level of the company. Chapter 7, WorldCom, the phone bill that broke the bank and the law. Remember WorldCom? No? Well, that's probably because they're a telecommunications giant that doesn't exist anymore thanks to one of the largest accounting scandals in history. Picture this. It's the late 1990s, the dot-com bubble is in full swing, and everyone's throwing money at anything remotely related to the internet. WorldCom, eager to get in on the action, went on a buying spree, acquiring companies left and right, racking up billions of dollars in debt in the process. But there was just one slight problem. Their core business wasn't exactly booming. So what's a telecom giant with mounting debt and dwindling profits to do? Well, if you're WorldCom, you cook the books. Of course, and cook the books they did. They used a variety of accounting shenanigans to inflate their revenues, hide expenses, and make their financial performance look much rosier than it actually was. They got away with it for a while, but eventually the truth always has a way of coming out. In 2002, WorldCom's internal auditors uncovered $3.8 billion in fraudulent accounting entries, and the whole house of cards came crashing down. Chapter 8. The year was 2010. The Gulf of Mexico was shimmering under a clear blue sky, unsuspecting of the environmental disaster that was about to unfold. Suddenly, an explosion ripped through the Deepwater Horizon oil rig leased by BP, releasing millions of barrels of oil into the Gulf in what would become the worst environmental disaster in US history. The images were devastating: oil-soaked pelicans struggling to fly, miles of blackened coastline, and the livelihoods of fishermen and tourism operators decimated. But as bad as the spill itself was, BP's response only compounded the tragedy. There were attempts to downplay the severity of the spill, misleading statements about the amount of oil being released, and a frantic scramble to contain the damage, often with methods that proved more harmful than helpful. The company faced accusations of prioritizing cost-cutting measures over safety, ignoring warning signs from their own employees, and then trying to cover up their mistakes. The Deepwater Horizon disaster wasn't just an environmental catastrophe. It was a stark reminder of the human cost of corporate negligence and the devastating consequences of prioritizing profit over safety and the environment. Chapter 9. Remember when Facebook was just a harmless platform to connect with friends and share cat videos? Simpler times. Then came the Cambridge Analytica scandal. A data privacy nightmare that exposed the dark side of social media and the lengths to which companies will go to exploit our personal information. Here's the gist. Cambridge Analytica, a political consulting firm with ties to the Trump campaign, harvested the personal data of millions of Facebook users without their consent. They used this data to create targeted political ads and influence the outcome of elections. How did they get their hands on all this data? Through a personality quiz app on Facebook. The app, which seemed harmless enough, collected data not only from the people who took the quiz, but also from their Facebook friends. This massive data breach exposed the vulnerability of our personal information in the digital age and raised serious questions about the ethics of data collection, the power of social media, and the influence of tech giants in our lives. Chapter 10. The year was 2008. The global financial system was teetering on the brink of collapse, and at the epicenter of this financial earthquake was Lehman Brothers, a Wall Street titan with a 158-year history. For years, Lehman Brothers had been riding high, fueled by risky investments in the subprime mortgage market. They packaged these subprime mortgages into complex financial instruments called mortgage-backed securities and sold them to investors, assuring them that these investments were safe and profitable. But there was a problem. The housing market was a bubble waiting to burst. As housing prices began to fall and borrowers defaulted on their mortgages, the value of those mortgage-backed securities plummeted, leaving Lehman Brothers holding billions of dollars in toxic assets. The collapse of Lehman Brothers sent shockwaves through the global financial system, triggering a domino effect that brought the world economy to its knees. It was a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of the global financial system, the dangers of unchecked risk-taking, and the devastating consequences of regulatory failure. From accounting fraud to environmental disasters and data privacy breaches, these scandals serve as cautionary tales, reminding us that the pursuit of profit should never come at the expense of ethical behavior, social responsibility, and the well-being of others. These scandals not only changed the companies involved, but also had far-reaching effects on industries and economies worldwide. They led to stricter regulations, increased scrutiny of corporate practices, and a heightened awareness of the importance of ethical leadership and corporate social responsibility. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful content. And remember, the next time you hear about a CEO being hailed as a visionary or a genius, take it with a grain of salt, or perhaps a whole salt shaker.